The nightmare began on a bitterly cold night just 2 days before New Year's Eve, 1884. While most of Austin was preparing to ring in 1885 with celebration and hope, 25-year-old Molly Smith was settling into a tiny cabin behind the Walter Hall residence on what was then called Pecan Street. Molly was a cook, one of the countless servant girls who kept Austin's households running. She shared her small quarters with her boyfriend, a man whose name history has largely forgotten, but whose survival that night would haunt him forever. What happened next was so brutal, so methodical, that it would set the template for a year of absolute terror. The killer struck while Molly slept. He crept into her cabin. How, nobody knows, because he left no signs of forced entry and brought his weapon down on her head with devastating force. The weapon, an axe. The impact was so violent it cracked her skull like an eggshell. While Molly's boyfriend lay unconscious from his own head wound, the killer dragged the dying woman outside into the freezing night. There in the snow next to the family outhouse, he completed his grisly work. He stabbed her repeatedly in the chest, abdomen, legs, and arms, creating what witnesses described as a pool of blood so vast that her body appeared to be floating in it. When the sun rose on December 30th, 1884, Austin woke up to its first glimpse of a horror that would define the next 12 months. But here's what makes this case so fascinating from a criminal psychology perspective. The killer's behavior was already showing the hallmarks of what we now recognize as an organized serial offender. He'd removed his boots to avoid making noise. Barefoot prints were found at the scene. He'd brought his own weapon, but left it behind, suggesting he had others. And most tellingly, he'd moved the body to a secondary location to complete his ritualistic violence. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was the work of someone who'd been thinking about killing for a very long time. But Austin wouldn't understand the true horror of what they were dealing with until months later, when the killer decided to strike again.